So welcome everybody to the Planning Commission meeting for Richmond. The date is Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025. And we have Mark and Ian and Rebecca and myself, a quorum of commissioners. So here we are. And Tom, thank you for coming to record us on MMC TV. All right. So we're going to review the agenda. There's no public here except for Tom. So anybody have any changes they want to make to the agenda? We could have Keith's announcement first. That would be nice, right?
Oh, yes. I'm retiring in 2 weeks.
No.
You really left me an opening there, Virginia.
I know. You took it. Yeah.
Yeah, we now have a zoning administrator in our employ. His name is Dante Denault. He has a JD, which is good for interpreting zoning regulations, and he is a fabulous writer. The first 2 days have been pretty impressive with him. I'm pretty happy with it. He's jumping in feet first. Obviously, it's a fire hose of information, so on and so forth. But things are looking up finally. It'll probably take me about a month to get him up to speed, 2 weeks, and I could probably leave him alone. So we'll see. Maybe I have a DRB meeting on the 10th, and I'll break him in with that board. And I'll probably get him around to do some introductions with the Planning Commission and all that. We're going to need at some point to appoint him, not appoint him, but to recommend him to the select board as the zoning administrator. But at some point, that's probably going to be 6 months down the road, but he's going to need to be appointed as the assistant zoning administrator at some point, but we'll figure that out in the coming weeks. So, But that's about it. That's the big change that's going on.
And he's very personable. He's nice. I met him. But just keep in mind that Keith is going to still be the zoning administrator for the next 6 months or whatever. And Dante is going to be the assistant who can do some of the work, but the decisions are actually going to be made by Keith. So he's still going to be somewhat busy. So
yeah, I'll still be somewhat busy. One of the requirements of his employment is to get that the NFIP certification. And when that happens, we'll probably release him as zoning administrator at that point. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes on. Yes, Rebecca.
Were you joking about retiring, or are you really retiring?
Yes, I was.
Oh, okay. I was going to say congratulations.
It wasn't funny, but it was a joke.
Yeah, I wish I was, but not quite yet.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
No, the announcement was just about the assistant zoning administrator. So
Okay.
that's his announcement. Anyway. All right, good. So that's a positive step forward. Now we just need a couple more planning commission members and we'll be good to go, right? Okay, review the minutes for 8/6/25. Anybody have any comments or corrections, alterations on those minutes from August the 6th? That seems like a long time ago.
Sure does.
I've not had a meeting since then, I guess. But all right, not hearing any comments, not seeing any hands. We will accept those minutes into the record as written. All right, moving on to our substantive agenda. So the Planning Commission has the responsibility for this document, the town plan. So this is why we need to know what it says. Ian and I are going to know even more about what it says because we're working on it. But the rest of the Planning Commission needs to be aware of what's in this document and be able to make comments, because we don't want to just throw the whole document at you in one fell swoop. We want to try to do some of it as we go along so we don't have it all to do at the end. Just as a review of the timeline, so the rest of this month of September, the steering committee members are working on the different sections and on the additional data section at the end, formerly known as the almanac. But We're not going to call it the almanac because nobody knows what that means or has seen any of the sections in it. So it's going to be the data and additional information section, and it will take similar things to what has been in it so far. There will be a whole energy section that comes from regional planning. There will be demographic data and various other things that the sections might require that's too long to put into the narrative and goals, but can be in the plan for reference. So for deeper diving in. So that's the month of September. During the month of September, fairly soon, I hope, the energy section and the future land use section need to go to CCRPC to be reviewed, because they will have substantial review is needed for those sections. So the flu section and our map will, as soon as it's ready in a couple of weeks, we'll have to go over to regional planning for their people to look at that ahead of time, ahead of them looking at the rest of it, because those sections need more review to fulfill their functions. The flu section, because it's all new mapping, new designations, the whole new system based on Act 181. So that needs to pass through their hands so they can look at what we're trying to do with it. The energy section, if we want to maintain our enhanced energy status, which we acquired last year with the help of Melanie Needles at CCRPC, a checklist had to be created with how we have and are planning to meet certain requirements about the energy laws that have been passed in Vermont. So that's a long section, and it will, we don't know if it's going to pass the review. It, you know, obviously, if we don't maintain our enhanced energy planning review status, they can't do anything to us. You know, it just will enable us, if we can maintain that, it will enable us to participate in any kind of legal action that occurs around the siting of renewable energy projects. So, which we don't have going on right now, but we may, and hopefully, because of the goals of the state to have more renewable energy produced in state, hopefully we will at some point have those projects, and we would like to have a say in where they're sited and so on. So that's why we're going to start tonight by looking at that future land use section anyway, and also look at the introduction and some other formatting changes. The one that I mentioned about the almanac not being called the almanac anymore, that one. And then we will see that there are some other formatting changes. So we will start with taking comments from people about the introduction. Ian, first, you had something to say.
I apologize for not knowing the answer to this question, but what did we decide what we're calling the almanac?
The data and additional information so far is what we've got. I don't think we've formally agreed on that.
Okay.
But it's a data section.
Yep.
So that's that. And I'm not sure I finished the timeline, but anyway, so in September, the flu section and the energy section go to regional planning. In the very beginning of October, the steering committee will assemble the rest of the sections that will be finished by then, and the data and additional information section. And hopefully by the middle of October, that will go all to regional planning for them to do a review, an initial review of our plan. On November 6th, we've arranged to have a public presentation at the library for the select board and the public. So that is going to be a 2-hour special meeting on a Tuesday just to look at this plan. Prior to that, we plan to send out a postcard and have an ad in the paper to try to get as many people to come as possible so they can know what's in the plan. We're going to talk about what's different between this plan and the previous plan, take comments, and then we will have from November 6th until the beginning of December, 1 month, to assemble those comments and incorporate them if we need to or where applicable. And then this early December meeting, there will be a second public hearing from the select board to approve the plan for a vote in March. So it's a pretty hurried up timeline, but that's because we would like to be able to vote it in March, and you really have to have your materials in to be warned and so forth by the end of December. So that is the schedule for the next few months. It will be busy. We're working on the sections busily now, so. All right, Ian, you have anything else you want to say? Except for, oh my goodness.
No, I mean, I got the transportation section done.
All right,
I'm happy
great.
about that.
Yes, well, we'll be talking about that at our meeting
Yeah.
next Wednesday, a week from
Yeah.
today.
But it seems like, I would say things feel like they're on the right track.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we're coming along. We've got now about half the sections in pretty good drafts.
Yeah.
So the other sections are being worked on, but you know, we don't seem to have any super major issues. All right, any other questions? Rebecca?
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
One is how many people are generally how many people would, because I'm trying to line up the food vendor.
Oh, so can I just
Yeah.
interrupt there and say, have you talked to Josh about this?
No.
Okay, so before we have this, so we have talked to Rebecca about it being an event with food and childcare. We do not know if the select board, it will be their meeting if they wish to do this or not. So
Oh,
before we do anything, you and Keith or me, or we need to talk to Josh, who will need to ask the select board, do they want this to be more than a select board meeting the way they usually have them with food and stuff like that? So before we go into details about this, we need to have that conversation. So I don't know if you want to call Josh and talk to him, if you want to get together with Keith sometime during the day, or me. We can all go
why
in there
don't,
together if
Keith,
you want.
Keith, why don't we just meet with Josh on the phone or something like that? I mean,
I think you kind of need to meet with him in person because he will have questions about it. He will have questions
Okay.
about, especially about the funding piece and all that.
Okay.
There will be many
Okay.
questions. It will be better if it's in person.
Okay.
So
What?
Well, what I could also do, Rebecca, I could at least plant the seed with Josh, so he knows. I could also figure out what his schedule is, how it aligns with mine, and then I could go ahead and reach out to you for timing on that.
Yeah.
if that works.
Yeah, the kind of the end of the workday is probably the best for me time-wise.
Right. And- Okay,
But I can pretty much accommodate most, it kind of 4, 5-ish, any kind of thing like that.
well, I'm depending on the day, I'm out at 4 typically.
Oh,
So,
okay.
because my workday is over. But it also depends on if it's a meeting night also for me, which
Oh, okay.
it's usually either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. But regardless, let me first see what his schedule is looking like. And at the very least, I'm planting a seed and he'll know. And it's not
Okay.
super time sensitive right now, but
Well, it
it's
kind of
super.
is
it
because
kind of
like if
is.
we're gonna
Yeah.
cook for that many people, like I need to start lining up the vendor now. And also like I know who I'm gonna reach out to for childcare, but I still need to get her on our radar.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's time sensitive and we need to know if we're going with this plan or not. And if the, you know, it may be that Josh will want to ask the select board, which may be, you know, like at their next meeting or something. So as soon as we can do that, that would be good. All right. And, you know, about the funding piece, Keith, you can talk to Rebecca more about that, if you would. Ian, you had a comment or a question?
I do have a comment. If you choose a food vendor, I vote for Prohibition Pig and you should get ribs. That's it. That's all I have to say.
So I actually have a vendor that does barbecue and I just know him really well. And I'm kind of like wanting to just go with somebody who's tried and true.
Okay. Oh, so you were thinking barbecue already. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's Southern Barbecue out of South Burlington.
So it's not vegan?
Hell no.
Better have vegetarian options at least.
I'll bring carrots.
There will be
Okay.
vegetarian options,
All right,
as
we're
always.
officially off track.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm an
yeah.
omnivore, so it's fine. I'm not a vegan. I'm just curious. That's all.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I think one of the things that we need to know is this going to take time away from the presentation, in which case we should start the meeting earlier. You know, the food part should be earlier. If people are going to be milling about, filling their plates, chatting about the food, eating the food, because we will need the whole of the 2-hour period for talking about the town plan. So be sure to make that clear in your conversations with Josh.
Okay.
Okay. So do you have another question, Rebecca?
No.
Okay, not at this time. Okay. So we'll get that resolved so we can start working on that if that's going to be a thing. All right. I don't know. Ian, Mark, how do you feel about that? Do you have a preference for it being that kind of event or not?
I'm indifferent. I think, you know, it'd be great if, I think it's a matter of seeing who we're gonna pull in and make this functional. So if we're gonna have a group meeting like this, hopefully we can get stakeholders and the pros and cons in our community voices to attend.
Right. Well, you know, the feeling has been on the steering committee that food really helps get people there. But
Yeah.
whether, you know, who will get, we don't know. The numbers are pretty hard to ascertain. It's a little bit unknown about who will come to this. And the reason that we're doing the select board and the public at the same time is, first of all, we have a shortage of time. Oh, I think that might be Allison.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I'm here. I did manage to
Oh,
get
great.
in.
Great.
Yeah,
Excellent.
hi Virginia. Yeah,
Okay.
I finally got it to work.
Okay, so we're talking about the town plan presentation on November 6th, a special meeting of the select board, whether or not to have food and childcare there.
Oh gosh.
I don't know where I went with that, but oh, the reason that we're having the select board and the public at the same time is one, a timing thing. We don't have that much time between now and the end of December when the plan has to be totally final. And the second thing is many people tend to come to hearings only when the select board is about to make a decision about it, you know, like at the last minute. So having a hearing without the select board, they're like, we'll just wait until the select board has their hearing. So we thought we could get those both groups there together, and it would help the select board to hear what people had to say, and the people, you know, to know that the select board was about to make a decision on this. So they should speak up now.
I think that's a good idea, Virginia.
Yeah, okay, so that's going to be November 6th, and we're looking into whether we should have a barbecue or something at that time. So, all right, so that's all for that, for the timeline. So let's look at the introduction. I'm hoping some people have read it so that they know what's in the introduction.
I read it.
Great. So basically, the introduction uses a lot of the same material from the previous introduction because of all the visioning work that was done in 17 and 18, which we still reference. And we have not done that kind of extensive visioning work again. So the introduction really states that, you know, things have changed, but things are the same. We know this to be true. We've got new legislation. Our problems maybe have gotten a little bit worse with housing and with climate change. We've had a lot of new laws passed. So that first paragraph lays that out and states basically that we're going to start by looking at the language that was in the 2018 plan and using that vision, because the vision of the residents hasn't really changed that much. People still want the same things from this community, but a lot of external factors have made things a little more urgent, perhaps. So we're trying to set that tone. So basically, after that first paragraph, we say we're going to look at the words from the 2018 plan. So the overview is all the same thing from the 2018 plan. You can scroll down through that. You all can look at that online in the existing plan. The vision is the same. And we just update it by adding what we've done in 26. The visions, the 11 visions are the same, and they are the visions that are in the vision connection boxes in each section. We're still using those vision connections. That is from the old plan.
Excuse me, Virginia.
Yeah, sure, please.
Different color text. Like, well, there's black, and then there's red, and then there's blue.
Yeah, I don't know why that is in blue, but that paragraph should all be in red. This is a red line version.
Blue and red
so
are the edits added.
blue and red are the edits that have been added. Exactly.
I'll just take this opportunity now to say that I thought that was really well written. You know, it added the depth and the basis of what we're changing in clear, concise summaries of the different acts put together. So that was really well done by you.
Yeah.
And support you had. It was, it works really well, I think.
Great. And hopefully it binds the two plans together, since we're using some of the material from the old plan. All right, the purpose is the same. That's all the same language. Okay, we get down to the responsibilities.
Yep.
Planning Commission, basically the same. So it's all in the black letters that were in the previous plan. Then, okay, the steering committee, select board, town staff, town boards and committees, community members. I mean, it's amazing how much of this stuff is still exactly the same. Get down to Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, and this is the same, but if you scroll a little further along, I guess we haven't changed anything there. The Vermont State Legislature is replacing the there were two acts mentioned, 171 and 174, in the previous plan. This plan has many pieces of legislation that have been passed in the last 8 years. So we changed that to be just, this is the role of the Vermont State Legislature in this current version. So we start with a list of the legislative changes that have direct municipal mandates. So blue or red is new stuff. And I kind of tried to arrange this by date. It was hard to figure out how to arrange these laws. But almost all of the material in this section is all the laws that have been changed that directly affect us. And then at the end are some laws that indirectly affect us. So why that is black, I don't know. This should all be red. This is all new material that's been added. I don't know which version you're using, Keith, but there's a version where this is all in red. Anyway, there have been a couple of iterations of this, and the blue may have been my correcting the red, and it's hard to make red lines. Anyway, so all of these things are new. Act 47, Act 181. Keep going, Act 59. And you'll have to read these little summaries to get an idea of what these acts say. This Act 59 is the one that says by 2030 we have to protect 30% of our land. We have to conserve it. By 2050, 50%. These are laws, but out of their generosity, the legislature is allowing the municipalities to do this any way they want to provide flexibility. So, Ian.
How much land do we currently have conserved in Richmond?
We have about half of that.
Yeah.
Half of the total is, or half of the goal?
Half of the goal.
Okay.
So we have 15 or 16% of the land is conserved one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know what the overall state total is?
30% is the state total.
No, I mean, yeah. but
Currently.
Oh.
what's the state total right now? Because I'm
I don't know.
impressed if towns like Burlington, South Burlington, etc., are gonna hit 30% conservation. There's going to, Rutland not gonna hit 30%. So you factor in all the national forests and state forests. We gotta have a pretty good number going there already. I guess my point is that, are we really expecting Richmond to come to 30% by itself of conserved land in 5 years?
Well, we could ask CCRPC what the total is. I think that would be a good question to ask them. I know that the town of Bolton has 50% of its land conserved.
Damn.
Because most of it is in the forest, in the national forest, and at elevation. So there will be places that will have a lot more than 30%, and there will be places that have, obviously, like you mentioned, those cities in Chittenden County who are going to have less. So that is something that we can ask regional planning how this works. Like for each community, right now, we're aiming to conserve a little more because we have more conservation land, high priority natural lands in this town. But I don't know how they're going to require it overall, if they're going to require how they're going to do it. So we'll ask them that.
Thank you.
Okay. So Act 121 is something that we will have to deal with over the life of this plan. We will have to have river corridor zoning regulations. We will have to have, we already have a floodplain overlay, but we will need to have river corridor regulations as well by 2028, I think. Oh yeah, there's the copy that's all in red. Great.
I know, I'm amazing.
Yep, you're amazing. Okay,
Now I see.
so let's see. We were down here with the Vermont State Legislature.
Bear with. I saw
Okay.
something I wanted to fix, and then this is what
Yes.
happened.
Okay. The CHIP Act is something that we haven't dealt with also. This gives towns the ability to do tax increment financing for the building of housing. We're not dealing with that yet, but it gives us the capability to do that if we wish.
Where is that? Where is that? Oh, I see.
That's
It's
Act
69.
69, the CHIP Act. So, you know, one of the state legislature's big priorities was to enable more housing. So that's why Act 47 and 181 that were up above, that's why they were put into place. And the CHIP Act also is to help with housing. All right, then we go down a little bit further. Any questions so far?
Question on the CHIP Act.
Yeah.
Is that money that can be used to extend the water line in the gateway? That kind of thing?
I don't know that it's even been planned out exactly what is going to be allowed.
And is it
whether-
just cheap financing, or is it actual like grant money?
Loans and from
Yeah.
property tax revenues, it looks like.
Yeah, no, it just allows towns to lend developers money on the strength of the additional tax revenue that they're going to bring in, as far as I understand it. That's what tax increment financing is. Whether Richmond has the capability of administering a TIF program, I don't know, but that act gives us the ability to do that if we want to utilize it. So we would all have to learn a lot more about it. You know, the bigger towns do this, and I think this will mostly right away be used by them to be able to put money up front to a project. So, okay, going down. The river corridors the Planning Commission will have to deal with at some point. I think it's by 2028. You are going to be required not only to have a floodplain ordinance, but a river corridor ordinance. And these are like streams named or significant streams that you will have to have in your zoning ordinance. Okay. So Act 174, we had already in the 2018 plan, but we didn't really do very much. So we have, there's been new data that was provided in 2023 and new methods of analysis created by the Public Service Department. And this is going to enable the Regional Planning Commission and the municipalities to improve their planning for energy and land use. So, and this was used to update all the information that we now have in our data section in the new plan. So, and also there's, we have to satisfy certain requirements. Okay, so can you get rid of those things? Anyway, all right. Then there's a brief list of legislative changes that may have a minimal or indirect effect on us. The clean heat standard that requires the importers of fossil fuels to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions because they're now offering either heat pumps or weatherization or something to get people to make less greenhouse gases. There was a lot of work done on the energy crisis, the climate change. So this is one of the things. It's not going to affect us directly, but it will indirectly affect us. We have renewable I mean, we have energy distributors in our town, and they will be affected. Oh, let's see. And then there's some other, either natural resources, rule changes, or energy. Basically, the things that they concentrated on in the state legislature in these sessions from 2020 on were housing creation, natural resource protection, and greenhouse gas reduction. So all of these things relate to that. All right, so we continue on. That's a big new section, what the state has done. And I can talk to anybody a little more about it if you want more details. For right now, these last set of items we're not concentrating on too much. All right, compatibility, that was in the old section. We also need, confusingly enough, to make our plan compatible with the new Chittenden County Regional Plan, which is actually not going to be ready until next summer. So the timing has been crazy because, you know, we're making this new plan. It's got to be compatible with their plan, which we will not be able to see until next year. But we have seen drafts of it. And this is where our whole new flu mapping system comes from. So we've put in here that it has to be compatible with the draft Chittenden County ECOS plan because the regional planning commission is going to want to know that. All right, policy on inclusion. We added a statement. We had already in 2017, the policy on inclusion was passed by the select board. Then since then, the select board has adopted the fair and impartial policing for the police department, which I guess I don't have a date for, but I will have to get that to put in there.
You mean the policeman?
It's what?
It's the policeman, not the police department.
Well, there's a dog also,
Oh,
you
sorry.
know.
Yes.
So,
Thank you for.
yeah, Duke, he's a very nice dog.
Yes,
And
I
he's-
was next to him last night.
Yeah,
He's a good boy.
yeah. And then I also put in about the sign because they voted to have the sign, which seems like it's an inclusive thing. I don't know how people feel about that.
Let's
What?
not talk about that.
Mine intended to be permanently out there.
Um,
Permanently, forever.
did they decide it was to be permanent? I actually
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
follow that. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, they had a lot of public support for making it permanent. So there you
Yeah, a
are.
lot of public opposition as well,
Yes. Well,
which they are choosing to ignore.
Incredibly.
Oh, sorry, let's not talk about it.
yeah, it's the select board, they have to make a decision one way or the other. It is or it isn't. So
I guess my point is, you know, the Policing Act. Wonderful. It's a nice reflection. But I don't know if we want to call that out in the town plan. Black Lives Matter and all are welcome here signs. Yes, it does exist,
yeah.
but is it going to exist for the full 10 years?
Well, it's right now. This is a snapshot of right now. This, I don't know. I mean, it seems to me like it is a policy of inclusion, or it reflects the inclusionary nature of the community.
Which we state in our townwide endorsed binding resolution, which, you know, was a great thing to have and
The policy on inclusion.
you know, should be called out in our town plan, in our annual summaries and whatever. I think that's it's a wonderful thing to have. It's harmless. But a sign, you know, a plastic sign on the front lawn, like a for sale sign is not my idea of don't know, town infrastructure.
You're also bringing in, the opposition was there, and you're bringing in a slightly political issue to something in a way that we want people, we don't want to highlight a possibly divisive issue in a plan where we're trying to get more people's feedback and participation in.
Good point, Rebecca.
Allison, do you have anything you want to say about that?
Well, yeah, I'd like that last comment. I would have been thinking about this, like with my swimming business this summer. I've tried really hard to make it clear that everybody's welcome, and that, I've worked very hard not to have political preferences, because it's not the issue. And I think the same thing is true here. It's not really the issue, as long as we are being true to the environmental necessities, and agreeing with, we have to agree with what the legislature does. But I think the less politics that's involved in these decisions, the better. That's just my general take on it. I don't know if that's helpful in any way, but.
Yeah, and Ian, you sounded like you were not in favor of this being in there either.
I'm going to recuse myself from this part of the conversation. I've written a letter to the select board regarding this. If anybody wants to see that, you can ask me and I'll send it to you.
I would like to see it.
Okay.
Me too.
All right.
Yeah, I would too. Yeah.
I just
sorry,
don't
I
want to
can't
part
be a
of
little
this,
bit more.
on the record. I'm going to just not comment.
I'm sorry, I can't be a little more connected tonight, but my computer is being very naughty. Anyway, yeah, I think I'll tell you something just in general. This is a little bit off the subject maybe, but I've been very distraught over the amount of emails that are out there from the different political parties that are against this or against that, or for this or for that, when in fact I think that what we need to do is unite our citizens in the common goals of taking care of our country. And this, well, just for example, Democrats versus Republicans and stuff, the kind of stuff that's all over the internet about that is, I'm really tired of seeing it, and I don't think it's productive. I think it's a waste of time. And what we need to do is gather ourselves to take care of the problems that need to be solved, and not get involved in that kind of stuff. That's just my opinion, but anyway.
All right, anybody else want to speak on this subject? So we'll probably talk about this at the steering committee as well. All right, so let's go on. So then the last section is the plan structure that was already in the introduction. And basically we're taking out the words technical plans because they're not really technical, and changing it either to sections, or the way it's, when I wrote this, I put required elements because that's the way it's written in statute, that these are the required elements of a municipal plan. But the way we've been doing it is we've just been calling them sections. So it's like section 1, community development, section 2, blah, blah, blah. Technical plans doesn't really explain what they are. They're not technical mostly. So anyway, that's the thought at the moment, is to change that language and get rid of the phrase technical plans. And either put required elements or just name them by sections. There was this one suggestion calling them chapters on the steering committee, it seemed like maybe that was a little much for them, you know, each one a chapter. But I don't know if anybody on the planning commission has any thoughts about this question.
Silence.
All right, well, you know, we'll go on talking about it at the steering committee. And,
Yeah, we need to think about, there's a lot to think about here.
yeah, you can think about it.
I'm impressed that the legislature has really made some strong stands about things, and it's really it looks like to me it's geared to preserving what we really value about our state, and I you know, I'm really interested to see that. I confess I haven't had time to follow it as much as I'd like to. I'll pay more attention. Just now that the swimming pool is officially closed as of yesterday.
Oh, congratulations.
But,
Yeah.
so I have more time to devote to some of this kind of thinking. But no, I've had an interest in planning for many years.
Yeah, well, the Agency of Natural Resources has been doing a lot of work. They've created the Vermont Conservation Design, and you know, a while back, Richmond with some other local towns did the Science to Action study, I think it's called, the Science to Action Plan, which looked at the natural resources, you know, because the loss of biodiversity is probably a crisis or problem equally as important as the global warming question with the greenhouse gases. It isn't so in your face to everyone who, you know, we live in this town that still has some natural resources, but what happens to those natural resources if you don't pay attention to them is they go away. So, anyway, so the legislature has been involved in it, and they have delved deeper into municipal planning than they have before, with the goal of preserving what the people who live in Vermont like about their state. And that's probably why we have 15% of our land is conserved, because many people are in Richmond are concerned about that. Why we have a conservation fund that is voted every year in, because it's high on the list of people's values in Richmond. So, yes, that's just a comment about Allison, about your point.
Well, thank you, Virginia. I also think that we, you know, we are gifted with, or we have got, whatever, however you view it. I have said for some years that God's owned Richmond. I mean, we have, there's topographical features that we have in the land itself, and the steep slopes and the river and whatnot, that it's just here. You know, you can't change it very easily at all, and I think that we just have to be very realistic about that, and take care of the gifts that we have from nature. And so, anyway, I've lived in Richmond now for more than half a century, and I grew up in Montpelier, but I love this place. And just a personal note that I've traveled in many parts of the world over the years. My ex-husband was a big traveler, and I love it here. Yeah,
well, it's a great place to live, and you know, I think
we're lucky.
We heard that in our survey that the steering committee put together, that people like it the way it is here, and would like to see always the top vote getter of qualities is rural character. So you got to have trees and stuff for rural character. Yeah, so
Well,
anyway,
we've got the
and
river
in
and
some of,
steep slopes.
yeah, and in some of our other sections, like economic development and housing, for instance, this is mentioned as being, there's a conflict there
Mm-hmm.
between all the land that is unavailable for development and what there is available for development. It's not, it's a balancing act that has to be walked between those two
But-
things. And
You know what,
so,
Virginia, they're developing all around us. I mean, you just drive to Essex, drive to Williston.
yeah, maybe not in Bolton, but
Well,
where
no,
50% of
I
their land
wasn't
is
thinking about
preserved.
Bolton, but no, I mean there's a lot of development all around us, and it's getting very trafficky, and it's a relief to me to come back here. So
Yeah, well, that's the conundrum with the state's idea that 85% of new development is going to be in the already developed areas. So that means statewide, 85% of development is going to be in the big cities. Each town-wide, it means 85% of the development is going to be in the center of the villages. So,
yeah,
if you want to preserve that land around, farmland, forest land, for biodiversity, whatever, then you have to do this. But it does mean that there will be more traffic in those areas. There will be more traffic in Burlington if you put 85% of the new housing development in that has been developed in the state. If you put it in the cities, those cities, unless we come to some new way of moving around, they're going to be full of cars. So, it's something that we will be dealing with, not just over the life of this plan, but certainly over the life of the next few plans after this. And there's a question, do we want all that development there? I don't know, if people want to move here, do we build for them or not? But we don't have the answers to those things in this plan, just in case you were wondering.
well,
All right.
I wasn't expecting that. I think
Yeah, there's,
no. But I have some relatives who live in upstate New York, and I don't know how familiar people are with what's going on over there, but the pollution which has occurred from the many forest fires in northern Canada has come down into
Vermont
New
even.
York.
Yeah.
Yes, it has. It has. In fact, this is part of what was wrong with my swimming pool at the beginning of the summer. I had been using the same chemicals for 15 years, and all of a sudden I had to change because the pH had changed because of all this smoky air.
Right. Yeah.
And that in itself was that was a much bigger effect than I had ever thought it would be. But if we can preserve the good air, that is a great gift for everybody. Some of my relatives who live in Toronto are writing to me that they can't even go outdoors. It's so bad.
Yeah. Yes. Well, unless we come to everybody doing their fair share to prevent the climate change that is causing the heat, that is causing the wildfires, we're not going to do better with that. And we don't want to talk politics, but at the federal level, since our president is in denial that climate change exists, it's very hard to come together on this topic. Anyway, I shouldn't get started on that, but let's move on.
Okay.
I
I think it is fair and realistic to discuss the leadership in the country of whether this is benefiting us or not, and how it is affecting us. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call it politics. I think that, I mean, yeah, there is politics in it, but we're going through a rough time right now.
Mhm.
We really are. Economically, it's a struggle for many people. So I don't know.
All right, well, let's move on lest we get too deeply
Yeah.
into the weeds. So we're going to have the data and additional information section, and then we will have the implementation table. And the data and additional information is going to be in the index in the beginning, in the table of contents. The sections with page numbers will be listed. So for instance, if you want to go look at the energy plan, then there will be a page number next to it. Previously, it was hidden under the rubric almanac that nobody knew what it meant. All right. So we go on then to the outreach process, and we've taken out the whole visioning process section from 2017 and 2018 because it was just too much information that was not needed to be looked at. And we're just putting in what we did this year, what we have done this year. So we've had the survey, we've had the tables, we've had the 4th of July, the workshops, front porch forum. We're going to have a postcard advertising this presentation on November 6th to the select board. We're going to work on that at our next meeting next week, the content of that postcard that will go to all the residents so that everybody will have been informed that this is what we're doing. Hopefully people still look at postcards, even though it's old tech. All right, and is that the end of that's the end, I think, of the introduction. Yep, the rest is just what was redlined out. So does anybody have any further thoughts about the introduction? Does this meet your needs other than the Black Lives Matter sign, which we can take up at the meeting of the steering committee? Anybody else want to make any comments? Mark seemed to think it was okay and laid out the old and the new adequately.
Just one thing, I
Yeah.
just, as opposed to the Black Lives Matters, and I know that's a whole nother thing that has to be discussed in front of the select board, but it reminded me of the I guess you'd call it the indoctrination of the round church, and that saying that they put into the town meeting, they endorsed in the town meeting in 1812. And I remember because I had a Richmond Round Church anniversary T-shirt. It's written on the back, and I'll
For
just
heaven's sake.
I'll put this out here. Each shall peaceably enjoy their equal share of said house. And I thought that was
Nice comment.
and all inclusive. I don't know if you can modify that of said town or something. Or even
Well, I mean, it would kind of be a nice introduction to the section on inclusiveness is if we say Richmond has always been inclusive because in 1812, this was said
Right.
how, each shall enjoy the fair share of said house. So can you just email me that at some point, Mark? I don't know.
I'll zip it to you right now.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds like the original inclusion and fairness policy that might tie a little history in with the modern. Sounds good. Yep, I like it. Okay. So if no one has any more comments about the introduction for right now, you can think on it and send them along to the steering committee if you think of anything. So we're going to move on to the other section, which is the future land use section and the map. And do we have a map handy, Keith, of the new regional planning map. I think, did we have one at our last meeting? Did we have a map that we looked at?
You can't hear me. Here I am flapping my lips for absolutely no reason.
Hi.
I can pull a map up. That's not a problem.
Okay,
Let me
that
get
sounds
rid of
good.
this, though. Did you want to look at the flu draft section first?
Well, okay, we can look at the draft first and maybe we can, people can discern from the text of the flu section what the map looks like. And I think this one is not a red line. I don't think.
Well, I think I have to hit edit copy and it turns into a red line.
Oh, okay. So it might be a red line copy. By the way, some of the sections I have not asked the steering committee to make red line copies of. You will have to, it was too difficult if most of the text is being cut out or if the text has been extremely rearranged. So if people want to know what the original text was for that section, they will have to look in their plan and compare it. Some of the writers have provided the new text followed by the old text, so that's another way of doing it.
This looks like a blue line almost. I'm not seeing any red, such as that right here.
Yeah, this is not a red line copy.
Okay. No.
So what we can do here is talk about the main change. I don't know, where's the text for this that goes next to the vision connection? There should be some text there.
I don't know. This is the copy I was provided with. I just went to the.
Oh, okay. They just put the
Yeah,
box
yeah.
above. Okay. So some of this text is the same. It basically says the same kinds of things, but the main change that has happened in the future land use section is that we have a whole different set of land use designations. So in the previous plan, we had things, some were similar, like the village center, and then we had Jonesville as a land use. We had an industrial commercial area. We took our the names off our zoning map and called them different land use areas. And if you recall, you may or may not recall, but we had what was called the fuzzy map that just had kind of like general areas where things are. The village was kind of pink, shading out to light pink on the outside, the fuzzy map, which was, everybody kind of liked it, but it hasn't really served us too well in terms of deciding where we want districts or anything like that, because it's too vague, it's too fuzzy. So what we're doing is we have adopted the new regional planning based on what the state said. So they're required to do it this way. The regional map has a certain set of designations that are going to be used statewide, and our map is required to be compatible with their map, which to us did not mean that it had to be exactly the same, but it seemed like the best place to start to make a map that was required to be compatible with the regional map was to start with the regional map and then see if we wanted to do anything differently. So if you want to go down to the future land use designations, it talks about the fact that we're going to use this new system of statewide designations. So the first one up above this, Keith, that you skipped over, A, the village center. So this is, we have referenced it to our zoning map so people could kind of understand where it is. It will be shown on the map, obviously. It's the village downtown, the village residential commercial area, and the village commercial districts. So that's like Bridge Street and Main Street and Railroad Street, the central part of the village, the core of the village. Those areas are going to be mapped as the village center. And, you know, probably what we should do maybe next time is to have a map alongside the text so we can see exactly where these things are. Anyway, this is the commercial and residential hub of the town. Under purpose, what we've done is we've basically taken the definition that was given to us by regional planning, who got it from the state, and we have put that in as the purpose. This is the central area, highest density of residential units, which is in our residential commercial section. There's going to be a variety of housing options because we have allowed, based on the new state statutes, 3 to 4 unit buildings, accessory dwellings. So we do have a village center designation that was renewed fairly recently, that we will continue to renew. This helps us to attract resources and to tap into certain grants and programs. So this is our village downtown. When you see it on the map, you will recognize it. It's the main hub there of Richmond.
Has it been extended at all, Virginia? Or is it just about the same?
No,
thing?
it's Bridge Street, Main Street, Railroad Street.
Yeah.
That's it. Then we have the next category down is, there were 2 options for labeling the areas just outside the downtown. And the areas that are included, that we are included in this category B, are the village neighborhoods, north and south, that we put in, you know, Baker, Tilden, up to the schools, that area, the area around Thompson, Cochrane, Huntington and Bridge Street intersection, that area, Church Street, Esplanade, Pleasant Street. Those are the areas that are just outside the downtown. So regional planning wanted to call these, and has on their map called them, the planned growth areas. But the other definition that matches them is called village areas. They seem to be the same, just about the same designation.
Compatible.
And what?
I'm sorry, compatible.
Oh, well, yeah, because of the reaction that we had when we talked about our village residential neighborhoods to the term planned growth areas, I have felt, and we can talk about this more at the steering committee, but nobody seems to mind, that we call these village areas. They seem to meet the definition just fine. And I feel politically it will be a lot easier to sell this product if we do not call these areas planned growth areas, but we call them village areas. Basically, they do allow for growth, for infill. We have put into our zoning that, you know, they can have the 3 to 4 unit buildings, they can have accessory dwellings, duplexes are allowed. which is the same. It's a slightly higher, it's, you know, it's lower density than the village downtown, but higher density than outlying areas. So, you know, I don't know if that gives you all enough information to have an opinion about it. I don't know if the Regional Planning Commission is going to be okay with us on our flu calling them village areas, whereas on their flu, the regional flu, they will call them planned growth areas. But I think it's worth a try calling them village areas because I think it's more acceptable to people.
I agree with that, Virginia. I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't know why they had to call them planned growth
No,
areas.
I don't either.
When the definitions are the same, basically.
Yeah, I don't understand that either, but
They're within walking distance, you know, they have services, they have
Yeah,
a mix of
right,
residences and commercial and
yeah.
civic buildings. So anyway, there's that. Everybody who hasn't had an opinion about it can contemplate it at their leisure and decide if you want to weigh in on it. But I think it would be better if we called them village areas. All right, so that's the second category. And if you recall, the select board recently voted on the Tier 1B question. The Planning Commission submitted a recommendation that we do not have Tier 1B. Tier 1B exempts certain high-density areas from Act 250 and expands Act 250 in the less, you know, the countryside. The Housing Committee favored it, and the Select Board voted to approve Tier 1B status for Richmond. That means that the village downtown and either the village areas or the planned growth areas, which are sort of the same thing, they will be in the Tier 1B area. So we will have to adjust to that. There will be less Act 250 oversight, so we will need to make sure that our planning regulations can take that into account.
Yes.
All right, then the third area that was this new designation is called transition or infill areas. And what they, regional planning, identified on their flu map was the gateway, basically, as being a transition area. And, you know, a lot of these definitions may seem like they don't necessarily quite fit Richmond, and that's because they are being given for the whole state, and all towns are different, and some of these things may not seem to quite fit, but that's what we've got, and that's what we have to use. So the gateway was a transition area because it could be possibly more connected to the village, more dense. It's near the downtown, but not necessarily walkable. And we, on the Planning Commission, understand that for at least 30 years, we've tried to make water and sewer go out to the gateway, but haven't been successful. But if regional planning wants to still think that we might be able to bring it out there, I guess that's okay. Nobody had any particular other needs for that area, so we didn't make any comments. We did send in some comments to the Regional Planning Commission about some of these things, but we let that one go. So that's the transition area. So then anybody want to talk about that?
How much of that is in the floodplain?
Well, the whole, as you go out towards exit 11 from the village, the whole of the left side is in the floodplain, but that is not in the Gateway District. That is AR.
Mm.
Of the Gateway, which is the land on the right, there are pieces that are in the floodplain, such as the land that surrounds the little mound that the mobile station sits on. That's in the floodplain, but
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
grandfathered. And there are pockets that are either wetlands or, pools or
Mm-hmm.
mixed in. But basically the Gateway area is not in the floodplain, most of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And, the Willis Farm, the Reeps, Joy and Bob Reep, were interested in putting housing on their property if water and sewer could be brought, but it was, the select board and the Water and Sewer Commission struggled with it for a long time, and there were many factors, and they were not able to bring water and sewer out there. So the idea originally, those years ago, was to bring it to the mobile home park.
Yeah.
Water
Sure.
and sewer, municipal water and sewer for those 160 households out there. But
Yeah.
it was not done by the town then, and they built their own system, and now they're not interested at all. So
Yeah.
anyway, so that's the transition area. The next area is resource-based recreation area. So we have one, according to the Regional Planning Commission, one area in our town that they have designated as a resource-based recreation area, which is the Cochran's property.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fine. It is a resource-based recreation area. If at some point in the future we wish to make zoning regulations that specifically talk about what is allowed or not allowed in a resource-based recreation area, then we will now have it mapped so that we could separate it out and make special regulations. We have talked before about, allowing more commercial activities on farms and recreation areas to allow them to remain viable. So, I think it's fine to have this designated. This will be on our map too as a resource-based recreation area. It fits the definition. We don't have to do anything special with it if we don't want. This map, this flu map, is not a zoning map. Neither our flu map nor the regional flu map at the moment is a zoning map, so none of these things currently have any regulatory impact. All right, and the enterprise areas were like commercial areas. And what the Regional Planning Commission has is the area up there in the northwest corner of Richmond, which is the industrial commercial and that part of the commercial zoning districts. It's what we looked at, the IC district, when we allowed those residences to go in if they wanted, which they haven't so far. They could be put into only properties that had other residences on them, and the rest of it remains commercial. So they have designated this an enterprise. So, and the current use is a mixture of commercial and light industrial uses, and that's about the same as we anticipate there in the future, a mix of commercial and light industrial uses.
Yeah, it's very wet there too. That whole area is extremely wet.
Yeah, so there's floodplain problems. And on our map, the Kenyon Road gravel pit is going to be listed as an enterprise area. But I don't think it is on the regional map. I don't think they thought about that at all. And so I don't know that we've really talked about this on the steering committee, or Keith, we haven't really talked about this, whether that should be included in an enterprise area or not. It's in ag res right now, but no, it's a commercial area right now in our zoning map. But it could just be in the ag res, and you could be allowed to do natural resource extraction from the ag res.
You could do that in the VD district too, I believe.
Yeah, we're going to take that out.
So,
No resource extraction in the downtown district. So anyway, that's their enterprise. That's their like commercial. Then there's this category that they invented that is used in New York, which is called Hamlet. And they put the downtown area of Jonesville as a hamlet. And since we have never been able to figure out what to do with Jonesville anyway, we left it as a hamlet. All of the residential use that people often consider themselves from Jonesville, it's like up Stage Road and West Whitehill and Snipe Ireland Road and, you know, Phoenix Circle and all those places. They are not included in this hamlet. The only thing that's included in this hamlet is that little downtown area, which is also partly in the floodplain. And, you know, we kind of didn't know what else to do with it. So I think I mentioned under purpose that the area doesn't seem to be evolving into a commercial hub. I don't see all those people who live on those outlying roads wanting to shop there. We don't hear about that. They go through Richmond or Waterbury or something, and you know, it's a little orphan area that if the region wants to call it a hamlet, I guess I'm okay with that. I don't know if people have feelings about that, what we should really be doing with that. Right now in our zoning map, we have it as a commercial district, which I think we should change to a residential commercial district because there are some residences there as well, and half of it's in the floodplain, but we haven't done that yet. We haven't taken up Jonesville. We will at some point. Anyway, anybody have any comments about that? Hamlet.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, why not? I mean, you know, if they want to call it a hamlet, that's okay. Then there are 3 more categories. There are 11 altogether. The next 3 categories are the outlying land. Now, what we have called this in our zoning is the agricultural residential district. Basically, it's like everything else besides those other things. The regional plan, based on the state work, has divided it into 3 categories. One is rural general. And rural general is all of the developed areas alongside the roads. In other words, if you look at the map, which we can in a minute, it's like up the Jericho Road, you know, Southview, Hidden Pines, Hillview, and Huntington Roads. They're all in this rural general category. Snipe Ireland, Stage Road, West Whitehill. This is where the developed part of the outlying land is. It's called rural general, primarily low density residential. And, you know, I think these designations may actually be helpful for us going forward to understand something about our big ag res district. The second one is called rural agricultural and forestry, and this is like one that's halfway between the conservation district, which is the third one we haven't got to yet, and the rural general, which is the low density residential one. This is the one that's in between. It is bigger lots that are not right. Many of them have a component that is not right on a roadway. Some are farms, some are forests, some are ridge lines. So they are shown, well, we'll look at them when we look at the map. This is kind of the intermediate kind of rural use, with equal emphasis on maybe low residential and other uses, working lands, open lands, etc. Then the third rural category is called rural conservation. And these are areas that on the state mapping, the Agency of Natural Resources, which has mapped the important natural resources in Vermont that need to be conserved, the forest blocks where there's biodiversity, etc. These are rural conservation areas. These are mostly, or entirely perhaps, areas that are either actually conserved, you know, the 15% of the land in Richmond which is conserved by conservation easements or other mechanisms, or they're areas in current use, which is the forestry program or the farm program where you get your taxes reduced if you're a working farm or forest. If you're in the current use program, you've all probably heard of that. So those are what are shown on their maps, and they are what are going to be shown on our maps. And the Conservation Commission and some others have been working on making sure that the lands that are actually conserved in Richmond, for instance, people on the land trust know what land has been conserved by the Richmond Land Trust. They are going to change some of the parcels that they know are conserved that are not shown as being conserved on the state map. In our FLU, they are going to be conserved because we know they're conserved because the people who hold the easement know when they obtained the easement. And the regional planning process didn't really take all of those into account. So those are the 11 categories that we will see on the map. And the goals and actions are similar to the ones that were already in the plan. Basically, we want to have smart growth, which is promoting development and housing in the higher density areas and preserving Richmond's rural character. So that's to address the housing interest right now, is, you know, and the fact that you're supposed to have 85% of your growth in the higher density areas. So that's goal 1, and goal 2 is to protect the important natural areas that have now been mapped in the state. Floodplains, which are also shown as conserved lands on the new maps. High elevations, high priority forest blocks that have been mapped by the state. And at some point, the Planning Commission will now have a map that shows these different parts of the AR district, and we will have to wrestle with how we're going to, or if we're going to have different kinds of zoning in these areas. But I think it will be useful for us to have these areas identified so that we can possibly make different kinds of regulations for the different degrees of conservedness that we want to see in these places. Some of the regulations will be the same, you know, the high elevations, not building on slopes that are over 35%, those kinds of things. So anyway, we can't go over each and every one of these, but you should read them and see what you think about them. You should think about them. And so if you could find us a map, that would be great, Keith.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
What about the idea of allowing triplexes and quadruplexes, or a little bit more than just duplexes, in some of the outlying areas? Has that come up as an idea to help the housing issue for people?
Yeah, and when we tackle the AR district, if
Yeah.
you remember, we told the people in the village districts
Mm-hmm.
that they would not have to shoulder the whole burden of increased density. You know, if the state,
Uh-huh.
if we need to build more housing because there isn't enough housing in Richmond and in the state, but that we will think about how we can build smart growth out in the outlying countryside, which is going to be talking about clustering of houses. It's going to be talking about small lots that are close together with preserved land around the outside, with not building long roads deep into the forest.
Yeah.
And we may
Yeah.
put in 3 to 4 unit buildings. The duplexes you can put in anywhere as long as you don't subdivide. We do need to talk about our subdivision regulations because we haven't done that on the Planning Commission, and they need to be fixed as well. All right, so here's this map.
This is iteration 1. This is not the most recent, but it does
Okay.
have all the resource-based stuff.
Well, it has some of it. It doesn't have all the dark green, but anyway, this is similar to their second draft. If you look in the middle, you can see the dark purple, and there's a blow up of the village down there in the left-hand corner. And that's, yeah. So the dark purple is the village downtown, or the downtown center, or the village center.
Mm-hmm.
Then the lighter pink is what they're calling the planned growth areas, what we would like to call the village areas. These are the neighborhoods, basically. These are what is within walkable distance. It's got water and sewer within walkable distance of the downtown. These are our village areas. That yellow area at the, yeah, is the gateway. That's the transition area. That could
Sorry.
become more dense, perhaps. You can see part of it in the little village, but in the bigger map, you can see the transition area. Whoa.
Almost.
Yeah, there you go. You can see it. And they take it up to the
Mobile and the array.
the Green Mountain Power Array, which I think maybe they've put in their second iteration that in the Enterprise District.
Yeah.
Anyway, that may be in there in the Commercial or Enterprise District. So that's transition. Then the light blue in the middle is Cochrane's, the resource-based recreation area. That's the Cochrane's parcel, standing by itself. Then you come to the hamlet, which is all the way down in Jonesville. There you go. That little brown area
Go.
is,
Right.
there it is. Yep. That's a hamlet, but you can see it doesn't really include all of the people who think of themselves as coming from Jonesville, which is everybody down at that end of Cochrane Road, basically. Then we get to the rural categories, the 3 rural categories. So if you make everything smaller, you pan out from there, you will see that the beige areas are what's called rural general. That is all the parts of our ag-res district that really are developed with houses. So I'm sure you can all pick out your own spots, but we've got Huntington and Hillview there. We've got Williams Hill and West White Hill down out towards Heinsberg, then going north from the village, which you can't see right now. We've got, you know, Hidden Pines and Southview and all that up there. And then on the right-hand side, you've got Snipe Ireland, Stage Road, West White Hill, and those. So that is the rural general. They're mostly small lots with on the roads. The teal colored area is the second category, the kind of in-between category called rural agricultural forestry. Those are those bigger light blue lots or teal lots.
It's an odd color.
Yeah, well, we could call it light blue, I guess. They're
Sure.
mostly big lots. They, you know, they have some road frontage, but mostly they're undeveloped, and they're either in farming or in forestry, or they're just big lots that don't have much housing on them. Some of them are high. They have a lot of steep slopes on them, like the area off Johnnybrook, for instance, Chamberlain Hill, which goes high. You know, there's not much potential for development there. Mark.
Yeah, I was just noticing that little spot off in sort of behind Cochrane's. That's a triangle all by itself called Rural General in the midst of rural ag. How did we come up with that?
Well, we don't know exactly how the whole algorithm that regional planning used. We know that the dark green area, which is the conservation area, they took current use and some conserved areas and some areas off the highest priority natural areas to make them dark green. But some of these, there might be a house or something there. You know, there might be a little house there. So
Properties around there that have houses.
9 o'clock.
yeah, well,
You know,
It's-
that's the Savoy's land, I think, right there, and there is a house up there.
Sure.
That lot.
Isn't there a house up on the ridge line somewhere?
That's on the other side of the ridge, though. This is on the side that faces Dugway, I believe. What you're looking at?
Yeah, it's down near Dugway. But
Yeah.
I mean, the other one is pretty close. That house that you can see from everywhere in friggin'
Yeah, I
Richmond.
know where you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
The screaming white-sided mowed
Yeah.
lawn house on a hillside
Yeah.
that everybody can see and admire with
Right.
felt envy, I guess.
Well, that's exactly that way.
Yeah, I don't
What the-
even know where that property is accessed from. Do you?
That comes off of Huntington
the
Road.
Huntington
Oh, it does.
Road.
Driveway between those small little lots
All right.
on Huntington Road right before it hits Hillview.
I
That
have the
might
property,
be-
this piece. Sorry.
Might be a Cochrane house, a Brown, one of the Browns' house. I don't know exactly.
Well, if
I
it was
am
Brown,
looking-
I wouldn't mind so much.
I'm looking at the A&R map and there's no construction on that. There's no access. There's nothing.
Oh. maybe
On
it's
that little triangle,
Yeah, on this
Interesting.
one right here. There's nothing.
yeah. Well, you know, the Conservation Commission and its working groups has been working to, because this is a parcel map, to identify individual parcels that we feel are mislabeled. But I can tell you, it's extraordinarily time-consuming work.
Hmm.
And the Planning Commission didn't, in our first go-round with this map, want to get involved in identifying particular parcels that were mislabeled. And this Conservation Working Group, who's been working for a couple of months to identify a few parcels and to develop a rationale, because, you know, regional planning isn't just going to change it just because you think it's wrong. They're going to need a formal rationale. This is wrong for the following reasons. And it involves a lot of legwork. You know, you have to go look at these parcels. And so anyway,
All right,
uh,
is really weird, but okay, I'm good if you guys are all good, whatever. And it really doesn't matter. It's all
yeah, it's not regulatory, and, you know, over time we can try to correct it. So for their, and they say, regional planning says they will be updating this map periodically, because I think they've had a lot of this kind of thing where people are looking at the parcels and going, that's not right. So over time they will update their map to match our maps. But right now they are sticking with their map, even though they're still calling it a draft. We don't think they're going to change it. One thing that has happened is in the upper right-hand corner of this map, where that dark green, which is rural conservation, most of the rest of that land up there is also conserved. It will be green. They did change that because the Conservation Commission and their group presented evidence that almost all of that land is actually preserved with easements. So that will actually all be green. They're working right now on the area down by Gillette Pond, which some of those blue areas are also going to be green because they have conservation easements associated with them. So anyway, so that's the map, and, you know, I think it's fine. I think it will be handy for us when we look at our big AR district to think about where the houses are and where the houses aren't, and to take the highest priority natural areas into consideration that ANR has been working on to develop mapping for. So right now it has no regulatory power, but we are going to take up the AR district soon, and this might be helpful to us to look at. So, any more questions about that? You know, I mean, I really would advise people to study it at their leisure and look at it to make sure that it, because we are going to have to be responsible for this document, so we need to be okay with it, and it is hard to be okay with it in a short window of a presentation. You need to kind of sit with it, I think, a little bit and look at it. So
Are there copies of it all over the place, or is it just down in the town office? Where is it?
Keith, can you send the planning commissioners a copy of the second draft? You can actually find it quite easily if your computer is working, Allison. But at the CCRPC website, if you go to the website, Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, one of the big boxes right on the first page is new flu map available, draft number 2, and it says read more or something, and you click on that and you get to this map, the second draft of it. So pretty easy to get to from the CCRPC's website. But maybe we can also, you know, make a copy of it and send it out.
Well, I'm going to share my screen, and I am on the CCRCP website.
Yeah.
It's right, it's the second heading down on the left.
Feedback summary available, and you will see how they rejected some of we did send in some suggestions and they rejected them. One of our suggestions was that they put the Far Farm into transitional, because that is a place that would make sense when it falls out of farming to become part of the walkable village. And in our 2018 town plan, we suggested that this was a possibility. But CCRPC rejected that suggestion. They
Well,
said,
we're just mere mortals.
they just said, we just don't believe you. So, you know, we can do whatever we want with it on our flu map. We can put it in transition if we wish to do that. I have been thinking about, you know, whether we should really be talking to the FARs about this, or, you know, because this map doesn't actually have any regulatory significance. I don't know if it's, you know,
Well, I
if
don't
it's
know.
worth going out on a limb for it, because we're going to have to submit our map to the regional plan, and they're going to say, well, we already told you that we reject that, and blah, blah, blah. So go ahead, Mark.
I was just gonna say, I'm not 100% sure that this map won't have any regulatory impact, because I know if litigious neighbors didn't want something happening, they'd be referring this map in the town plan and saying, and I know that puts us in a tough spot, which is the only kind of consolation or plus sign to the weird fuzzy map we had before. I get
Right.
that we go to a lot division, but I don't know if it's reasonable to put some sort of caveats in there that state something, because I mean, we're just coming out with this off the cuff and dictating, okay, what is conserved land and what is rural general are, you know, there's some overlap there, and for somebody to come in and say, oh wait, it's somewhere on a map this is tagged dark green as conserved land, you can't put another house on that property.
Well, those that the cursor was pointing to, those are all in the floodplain.
No, but I mean, in the whole map, yes, we're
yeah.
looking at this, and you want us to take a careful look at it, but we're going to take a careful look at it and say it doesn't matter because the CCRPC has already told us what it is, and we don't have any authority or power with them, and therefore we have this map that we're pretty much adopting from CCRPC.
Mhm.
I kind of wonder if there isn't some kind of language or whatever that gives these arbitrarily defined properties, not arbitrary, but you know what I mean? I mean, there's not hard science that went into every one of these classifications of properties. And all of a sudden, somebody in the general sector who enjoys their view of a conserved property is going to say, oh, you can't put another house there. This is defined by the town plan to be, you know, conserved territory. You can't do anything with that. I can see if we've already got predefined conserved property to call that conserved, sure. But then everything else in my book should be have more flexibility to it, because neighbors will use that and be taking people to court and racking up ridiculous fees for somebody who wants to build a house for their kid and have to fight it in environmental court because we have arbitrarily adopted this town plan the CCRPC has imposed on us.
Well, it isn't a zoning map. So
I know
what?
it's not a zoning map, but
Right.
there were lots of parts in the town plan, that in any town plan, that can be used litigiously to argue against development. And if you've got a dark green lot because it's next to conserved land but isn't conserved land, but it would be nice if it was, but it's not, and somebody says, oh wait, there's potential for a legal argument there, unless you state somewhere, and I don't know what the language would be for that, but that this isn't a town zoning map, you know, and that this is recommended town goals, but it's not, you know, enacted into law that these properties as highlighted, as identified, aren't held strictly to their designation in the town plan. What I mean?
I think
I
it's
think that's a good point.
it has said on one of those maps, this is not a regulatory map. Or maybe that was on our last one, we put that on the top. But anyway, the green areas are either conserved or they're in current use. Or they're in the floodplain. So you can't argue with that. You know, there's no way that you can
You can still build
argue that.
something
What?
that, even if it's in current use, doesn't mean it has to stay in current use.
No, but it's expensive to get out of current use. So,
I agree 100%, but do you see where I'm coming from in that I don't want this map to be interpreted as legal standing. I think it's a
Yep.
great idea. It's a good image. It's a good vision of what we want, but we should identify it as a vision and not a regulatory map. That's all I asked that.
yeah, well, we can put on the map that it is not a zoning map. It's
Yeah.
not a zoning map. So,
Something that has strong enough language that prevents somebody from getting sued in environmental court because of it.
yep, I think we even put that on our other map. Did you have a comment, Ian?
I mean, Mark pretty much said everything that I was thinking.
Mhm.
I think it would be a good idea to put some language in there to be very clear that it's not binding in any way. I guess.
It is
I
binding
agree
in
with
the
that
sen-
too.
But it is binding in the sense that it is part of the town plan, and regulations are built off of the town plan. So, I mean,
Okay, so then what Mark is saying, then it's actually
yeah,
something that's concerning.
it's
I guess.
influential. It's going to be influential, no doubt,
Yeah.
each map. But I think that's the point.
Well,
I
it
mean-
sounds like we're just zoned Richmond. But I should say that CCRPC from Winooski just zoned Richmond. And if we adopt what they say, then we're basically adopting CCRPC zoning map.
Dictate.
That's the statute, you know, that's what the legislature has done.
Well, and we haven't made a zoning rules based on this map.
Yes,
We haven't
not
made
yet.
zoning rules based on this map. So, you know, what they felt they were doing was putting the
dictating
state of
us.
affairs that there currently is, where they are putting whatever is currently into these categories that the state has told them to use.
Yeah, CCRP is not the enemy. I feel for them because, you know, they've, you know, basically been mandated to do this. But they are the face of change. They're the face of
Mhm.
We're
change.
going from Chittenden County now to the state regulators who are then zoning Richmond for us. You know,
Yeah.
bunch of legislators who've never set a foot in our town.
Right.
Now zoning our town by their decree, and that
Mhm.
I don't think should be acceptable. And I think as representatives of Richmond citizens, we should state clearly our interpretation of that. And I hope that's what I just offered, I hope is our interpretation. I'd be happy to put it to a vote. I'd be happy to put it to a, you know, a highlighted discussion item when it comes time to have a townwide meeting. I'm pretty sure that the majority would concur with some sort of conditional statements on that map.
Well, the map is whatever we use it for. It's what it is. It's not a regulatory map. It's not a zoning map. We use the map as a basis for our zoning, but we don't have that zoning right now.
All right, I'm not sure you're picking up what I'm putting down, but
We can say this is not a regulatory map, but we may use it to base future zoning on. We may use it to base future zoning on. But we could use the fuzzy map to base future zoning on. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's-
it would be weird zoning, but
Yeah.
Only thing I like about the fuzzy map, I agree, it's weird.
yeah,
But the thing I liked about it is it gave that transition kind of without the absolutism
Yep.
that has been handed down to us.
hmm by a parcel map. Yeah, well, they elected to use a parcel map, which, you know, everybody's going to look at their own parcel and see what is being said about their parcel.
And I would, if I were in one of those conditional areas, I would be with children I wanted to subdivide property for, I would be very opposed to this town plan.
Well, we
For
can
that-
make regulations. We can make regulations whatever we want for these different districts, or we can make them all the same, the regulations. We can keep our AR district, which has all of these different areas. But whether that's good planning or not, I mean, that doesn't seem like it's good planning if we want to keep the place rural and, you know.
I
Anyway.
agree. You
I
should-
think another thing to consider is, are we making drastic changes to what already exists in these areas? I don't know.
Well, we don't have a conservation district in Richmond yet. But the CRPC has assigned us a
I see,
conservation.
yeah. So
No,
that's
it's not a conservation
Not a
district.
district, No.
It's not a zoning
It's a
district.
land use map, so just, yeah.
On the town plan level. Am I wrong, Keith?
But
I mean, well, the firewall is this committee. I mean, honestly, I mean, that really is the ultimate firewall. You know, you guys you promulgate the laws.
Right.
Yeah.
So we get
So-
to have clear language in the town plan that
We have to satisfy them. They are our overseers. So there is that. So, yeah, but I mean, I'm getting a little punchy now too, so.
Yeah, it's time for us to wrap this up.
yeah, I don't think that there's any evildoers in anybody who's working on any aspect of this state, regional or local. I think it's just people trying to make sense of things and have good outcomes, but you definitely have to consider property rights and, you know, the ultimately it's the resident that whose head this is gonna fall on in a negative way possibly, so.
Or the
Yeah.
antithesis of that, you know, maybe it could be positive. I mean, it's all
Yeah,
subjective. You know,
for
it's not all
sure.
negative.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know.
well, that's what planning is all about, is,
Yeah.
you know, walking that line between what you want for the future and what you have now. And so, you know, that's up to us to make those decisions and put those rules in place about what we want to do.
Yeah.
with this.
I would say though, I definitely, in Mark's corner with his concerns, for sure.
Yeah, so the other problem is we will have to have a map of some kind.
Yep.
So,
Gotta do
and we
something.
will have to have a map that is compatible with the Regional Planning Commission's map. That doesn't mean necessarily it has to be the same, but it has to be compatible. Somebody has to make that map if we don't use this map.
Mhm.
So, and like Keith said, it depends on what the rules that we make. The Planning Commission is about making the rules about what these different areas mean in our regulatory world.
I'm sure we'll come up with a good solution.
Well,
Oh, great.
dark property probably doesn't look that different from a light green or even a gray property.
What doesn't look what?
A dark green property probably overall does not look that different in appearance from or a light brown property. And for us to just say, okay, this area is gonna be, and I'm beating a dead horse, never mind.
Yeah.
Let's call
Yeah.
let's wrap up.
Yep. I think
Oh,
it's
geez.
time
I didn't realize how late it was.
to go now. But anyway, the good discussion. So anybody have any other updates or anything they want to bring up? Keith made the announcement about the new zoning administrative assistant. That's good. Anybody else? Allison, I hope you get your computer fixed, but
Oh,
you
I
got
have a
here by phone anyway.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm working on getting the computer fixed.
good idea.
I may end up with a new computer. I don't know, but
That's probably a good idea.
no, it's nice to at least be on the phone. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
feel left out or anything. I
great.
think it worked fine.
Good. All right, Ian, you had something else you wanted to
Yeah.
say?
If I've got that draft done, should I send, who, should I put that in a folder or something?
Send it as an email to the people,
Just individually?
to the steering committee members.
Okay.
That's
All
what
right.
people have been doing. If you
Okay.
want to put it as a Google Doc, that's fine. But if you
Right.
want to just send it as a Word or a Google Doc to the individual steering committee members and Keith, then that's fine.
Okay.
And
And,
I put in the chat the email that I sent during the meeting about the language from the,
oh, great.
so
Thanks.
it's quoted exactly what I wrote in the email to everybody, so it's,
Okay. Did you get that chat? Do you have it saved or something, Keith? Will you save that email, that chat?
I see 3 chats from Ian, from Tom, and from Rebecca. That's it.
row.
I got the email from Mark with the.
Is
An
it
email?
an email or a chat?
You did send an email to all of us too, Mark.
Okay, it's not in the chat.
Okay,
but-
so if it's an email to everybody, that's fine. We'll get it as an email. And if we don't, we'll email you and get you to send it again.
Says in mind, oh, hang on a second. There we go.
I see it. It's in the,
About
oh,
that.
there it is.
I didn't hit the little arrows, the send Gmail code for sending something.
Well,
We're good.
we definitely got the email though. That's cool.
Okay, groovy.
All right.
All right, so if no one else has anything else, someone could make a motion to
I'll make the
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Okay, Ian,
Second.
seconded by Mark.
Good to see y'all. Have a good night.
Yep, if
Wow.
nobody is opposed, we will adjourn, and our next meeting is on the 17th of September. And we'll probably review a couple of other plans. The housing plan is ready. It sounds like Ian's transportation is ready. We've got econ development is ready. So
A lot of reading.
try to read them ahead of time so that your questions, like I won't have to go through what it says, but you all will be able to talk more and not hear me droning on because you will have read it and you will just bring your questions.
On
So-
that note, reiterate the intro is awesome.
Good, thank you.
No, seriously.
You read it, so I'm pleased. All right,
Thank you,
so,
folks.
yep, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Tom.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Good night.
night.